Today we have Snake from the legendary band Skid Row. We are so excited to chat with you, Snake. This sort of feels like a kind of a dream come true. Cullen and I, in a way, kind of grew up with a lot of the metal music that was coming out in the 80s and 90s. My dad especially really loved that music, and so that was like the music that I first, a lot of it that I first heard. And this is just amazing that we get to chat with you and chat with somebody who's a part of a band that Cullen and I grew up with. This is pretty amazing.
Wow, thank you. That's really kind. Thank you.
Yeah, man, it's absolutely exciting. We are definitely fans of Skid Row. You know, a lot of your peers, your musical peers from the late 90s, early 90s and stuff like that, they did not hold up nearly the way that Skid Row has. And especially today, right? So first thing right off the bat, where I would love to go with this is saying your musical peers, they are what you could consider a nostalgia act, in my opinion. Okay. But Skid Row is not. Skid Row is here. They are resurrected. They are they're kicking on all cylinders. Everything's fun. Tell us how life is, man.
Life is great. I mean, we're genuinely humbled by everything, and that goes back to when we first started the band. We Rachel and I and Scotty were raised in an environment that taught us to be grateful and humble for everything that comes your way. Life doesn't owe you anything. And so throughout the whole early stages of the band, when we became very, very successful, that mentality remained. And we've kept that throughout the whole history of the band up until now, and that's just the way that we are. That's how we were raised. That's how our parents sort of embedded in us. And we're all from lower middle class families, hard work and blue collar, and we've taken that and applied it to our band. And that's one of the primary reasons I think why we're still around. I mean, the main reason is that thankfully people still want to hear this music, and I'm so proud of what we've been able to create, and the fact that we've never really stopped touring. We've been able to go around the world continuously and play play because people want to hear it. And so the only reason that we're really here now, besides our love for creating and playing the music that we've created, is that people allow us to do this. You can't go out and play an empty room. And so luckily those rooms aren't empty. And now it just seems to be, the interest is increasing with the advent of our new record, which is really such a humbling feeling to know that we're able to strike some sort of chord with some of the public in the year 2022. It's pretty amazing, and I'm somewhat taken aback by it in a good way. I think that we all are, and we're all just very, very thankful for this opportunity that we have now. It's pretty amazing.
So in a few years, you guys will have been a band for 40 years. Which might be hard to believe at this point. Honestly, it might be one of the older bands that we've ever interviewed. And I say that most respectfully.
I'm proud of that. Are you kidding me? I mean,
that's amazing.
It's a testament to the, to the character of the guys and the band in general.
Yeah. Can you think back to those early years, back in the mid 80s when you guys started? Was there any idea that 40 years later, you'd still be putting out music, you'd still be playing shows, and you'd still be just as great as ever?
No, I didn't think I would have been alive in 40 years, to be honest with you. When you're that young, in your late teens and your early 20s, your dream, it's every band's dream. You want to be the Rolling Stones. You want to survive as long as that. But then there's that thing, at least in the back of my head, like when I hit 20, I was like, man, I'll be happy if I make it to 30, that type of thing. Not that I led any sort of reckless lifestyle. But the problem for me is that I used to get, I mean, I've broken arms, broken legs, accidents all over the place. I was just, I was like an accident waiting to happen, literally. And so I was like, man, if I make it to 30, it'll be quite the accomplishment. And also our mentality with our first record. I mean, obviously, when everybody gets their first record deal, it's one of the most amazing feelings in the world, that you're getting an opportunity to record your music, and the opportunity to present it to the public, and hopefully they respond to it. And luckily for us, they did respond to it. But we had, as much as we wanted to sit there and have platinum records, which every band does, we wanted just to have the opportunity to make another record. We wanted to sell enough records so we could make another one. And it was really as simple as that. And everything that happened afterward was unbelievable, far beyond what we thought our reality could be.
At what point did you get this sense, oh, like this is a thing, like this is what's going to be paying the bills, I don't have to worry about like money maybe anymore? At what point in your career did you, like, you know, was it, you know, one of those first albums? Maybe was it later on after some of those platinum albums? Like at what point were you like, wow, this is a thing and I don't have to worry about money anymore?
Well, part of the dream was always that I wanted to be able to make music for a living. That's Rachel and I always talked about. How great would it be that if we didn't have to go to the music store and work anymore, and music would be our provide our our life for us. It would be what we do for a living and nothing else. Like, not like, yeah, I'm a musician in a band, but I'm also a guitar teacher, and I sell guitar strings at Garden State Music. It was all about the dream of being able to wake up and pick up your guitar, write songs, and then go out and hopefully play them and record them. That was really what it was. So far, having been able to fulfill that and being pretty confident that that's what I'm able to do for the rest of my life, that was a dream that was fulfilled quite a while ago. I felt like, yeah, like I won't have to work a day job anymore. I think that probably happened somewhere around like the first inkling I had that people even really knew or to the extent of what was going on was, I remember Christmas of 1989, our record had been out about 11 months. And, we had been touring and we were aware MTV was playing our stuff and we were getting a great response from that. And the fans on the Bon Jovi tour and the Motley Crue tour were responding, really favorably to us. But you don't have you don't know, like, I don't want to presume something. So I kind of look at everything like, okay, this is cool. But it's not here, when in fact it was here. And it was Christmas time and I was going through in a mall in New Jersey, with my buddy Mike, and we were Christmas shopping. And someone recognized me, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." So then I realized, like, okay, that's cool. And then all of a sudden, more and more people, until literally we were surrounded by a couple hundred people, and it was unbelievable, but it was like scary. I didn't really know how to respond to that, other than, "Are you sure you got the right guy?" And that's kind of, we had to get the security had to come and escort us through a back hallway, to get out of there. And I was like, that's really unbelievable. I never in my wildest dreams did I expect that. So that was an indication that things had that we had affected and reached a good amount of people. And so
Yeah.
it started to settle in. that maybe we were at the cusp of some sort of success.
Yeah.
Again, never taking anything for granted, and looking at that and being grateful and thankful.
I bet it's a great moment in your life as a musician when you go home for Christmas and you no longer have to say, you don't get the question anymore. Is Dave still doing that music thing? Like where it's a hobby and it's not really, a real thing that's happening, and you don't get that question asked anymore. Like I think that is like
No,
the moment where you're like, oh, even my family recognizes this as like a thing that I'm actually doing and making money and paying the bills.
when I first picked up the guitar, I knew that this is what I wanted to do for a living. And it's pretty rare when a 14-year-old kid really, really knows what he wants to do. And my family at first was like, because I was a jock and I was a pretty good baseball player, and with the hopes of maybe going to college to play baseball. And but at that time I'm like in the ninth grade, and sports were everything up until that point. And so once I picked up the guitar, I basically dropped all sports, and my family was very disappointed in me. And, as time went on, it was very difficult to get a job other than a warehouse gig because I wouldn't cut my hair. And so they were disappointed in that. They're like, you could have been, setting up to go to college and all this stuff. And at one point, it got pretty bad where I was selling tools out of my trunk of my car in mall parking lot. And they're like, you messed up. You made a mistake. And I'm like, no, I did not. Until finally, Rachel and I hooked up in the music store in Tom's River. And we there was an instant connection there when we sat down to write our first song. We knew that we were onto something. Didn't know to what degree, but we knew we had something that we had never had before in any incarnation of any bands that we were in separately. And so as we put the band together, and as we were playing locally in the tri-state area, and we were building a following, we knew, okay, like there's something here. There's something here. And John Bon Jovi was instrumental in helping us out quite a bit at the beginning, and his opinions on the songs and how we were playing live really were incredible advice from a guy who had done it continues to do it at the highest level. And so that was really instrumental in helping to shape what we were becoming. We took those words and applied what the advice was coming our way from Richie Sambora too, because as everyone knows, I've been friends with John since we were kids, and so he's like my big brother. And he was the one who always said, it was never if. He never said if I become famous. He was always like, when I become famous, put together a great band and I'll help you guys out. And so we felt that we had put together a really good band. He felt the same, so he helped us out, stayed true to his word. And that's when my family became really invested, when they saw us starting to succeed at the local level, and people started following us and going to all the different shows and stuff like that. And my mom especially was really invested in it, and she became affectionately known as Mama Snake, and she would go to as many shows as she could, and she would ingratiate herself with the fans, and she loved it. And it was just an upward and forward trajectory from those days, and she never stopped believing. So yeah, I think early on, before we put Skid Row together, it was, are you still playing that banjo? You know what I mean? Like kind of kind of mentality. Because if you think about it, it's such a far-fetched dream for anyone to imagine from a parental standpoint or a sibling standpoint. No one in my family is musically inclined, but pretty much everybody was athletically inclined. And so when I took up sports and was doing pretty well at it, it kind of wasn't a surprise for my family. It made sense. So this complete 180 turn that I took, I think surprised and disappointed them because they felt I was giving up a future. And so luckily my gut instinct and proved to be invaluable at such an early age.
Yeah, that's something that's very interesting to me as well, because there was this kind of trend I would say in the mid 80s, late 90s, or sorry, late 80s, early 90s, in which a lot of really great metal bands were coming out of kind of that New Jersey area. John Bon Jovi, as you said earlier as well. Some question that I've always had a curious thought about has to do with geography and how where we grow up kind of informs, what music we create or what art we make. I'm curious, you talked about that sports background as well as that lower middle class background. How do you think that translated itself into your music? Because that is certainly a sound that people were dying for, and you guys produced it really well. So curious with that.
Well, I think what happened is for decades, I'm talking 70s, 80s, 90s, even into the 2000s, there was such a great music scene, not just a metal scene, but a music scene in New Jersey and New York, and to a certain degree, Pennsylvania. So many rock clubs, so many bands competing for space, and it was all healthy. We all got along for the most part. There's people that we've toured with that were played with in the clubs that were huge influences on me as a guitar player. Vito Bratta from White Lion. I used to play in the clubs with him when he was in another band and I was in another band, and we became fast friends, and he mentored me as well. A guy by the name of Dave DiPietro, who played in a band called TT Quick. Another guy that would, before a show, I'd be able to sit down with him, and he phenomenal guitar player, and would be able to show me stuff and just really, really lifted my game. And then another guy by the name of Kenny Dubman, who played in a band called Prophet. And both TT Quick and Prophet were signed to Megaforce Records. And obviously White Lion was on Atlantic. And so there was a lot of really healthy competition. And Kenny was another guy who just not only inspired me, but took some time to help me out as a guitar player. And so there's so many guitar players, though. Mark Hitt, who was from Rat Race Choir, had a huge influence on Scotty, and he was in that New York scene that Scotty was a part of. And our close proximity to New York played a big part of it too, because we were Jersey bred, but we could always go into New York City and experience that as well, and all the clubs that existed there. So it was really a fertile breeding ground for original music. You'd had to start out playing cover songs, but that was always a ton of fun. But we never did that as Skid Row. But in all our bands previous, we did. And being able to open up for a band like Twisted Sister, before they finally got a record deal, and after they got a record deal, was just, I can't even express what that does and how that helps a band to progress and grow by just watching these great artists. And there were so many in New Jersey, and like I said, not just a metal thing, but overall a rock thing. You had all the Asbury Park bands that ranged from the Springsteens and the Asbury Jukes to punk bands like the Reds and Shrapnel. You had the Misfits, you had Nuclear Assault. And now there's a pop artist coming out of New Jersey as well. And Halsey is a Jersey girl.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
For sure.
So it's still a fertile breeding ground for music. And I think the thing about New Jersey is that these artists that come out of New Jersey are aware of the history that occurred in that environment. And again, having New York City is so close played a big part too. It toughened
Sure.
you up.
I
It
would
all
imagine.
toughened
Yeah.
us up.
Yeah,
You know,
I
we
got to
were
imagine
all
it toughens you up as well. Kind of always being looked at as like the ugly stepsister to New York as
yeah.
well,
I
right?
mean, again, everybody has the same goal in mind. And one of the great things about seeing Twisted Sister get signed is it really enforced the idea that, yes, this can happen. Because they went so long. They were playing to 2,000, 3,000 people without a record deal. It was insane.
Wow.
And you just shook your head going, how does this band not have a record deal? And I highly suggest watching their documentary because it goes through all of that early period of what they went through. And it's fascinating. And I remember because I was there for a bunch of it as a really young kid. But them getting signed, but probably more so watching John's and Bon Jovi's success occur right here in front of me was really, really inspiring and created that idea in our heads that this is doable. Like, I know 1 in a million make it, but this is doable. We can be one of them. And that feeling never went away. We would get discouraged, don't get me wrong, as every artist does. And we still get discouraged at certain things. That's just part of it. That's part of life. But that only enhances the successes.
Totally. I would love to talk about the new album. And I think obviously the big thing that everyone's talking about is Eric. He's filling in the shoes, and he's not just filling in the shoes. He's creating his whole own pair of shoes here, right?
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, you guys have had all these different vocalists. One who shall not be named.
Right.
But you guys have just been killing it with Eric, and it's a new energy that it feels old school. It feels like the 90s, but it also feels brand new with a whole different kind of energy. I'm so in love with the sound that you guys are producing right now. Tell us about the record. Tell us about how you guys created it, what it was like getting Eric on board and all that stuff.
Well, as everybody, we really started working on it, writing and stuff before the pandemic. And then that happened. And I found it whereas other people were able to tap into this newfound creativity, my thing was the opposite. I was so frustrated because I just couldn't find anything that I was doing that felt worthy of bringing it to the band and working on it. And I don't know if that's 100% true that whatever I came up with was completely awful, but that's just what it felt like. And I'm sure it had to do with the situation and the surroundings of being isolated and stuff like that, and forcing myself to pick up the guitar and attempt to create something that hopefully people respond to. But it wasn't making me feel confident in going, yeah, this is a really good riff, or this is a really good lyrics, or whatever. So that year and a half, 2 years proved to be, for me personally, very difficult. I'm very envious of the people that it didn't have that on. People who were able to write records while they were, in isolation or hampered by the virus. So it was coming out of that things for me personally started opening up. Rachel is, as for some reason, he's always creative. So he had a lot of really cool ideas, thankfully. And we started working on all that and writing. And we started going back to working on the record again. We had decided that most of what we had written wasn't quite there. So, and then we met up with Nick Raskulinecz, who, if anyone doesn't know, he has an incredible resume with Hailstorm and Foo Fighters and Stone Sour and Alice in Chains and Mastodon and Rush. An amazing producer. And he expressed, him and Rachel became friends. in Nashville, and he expressed a desire to produce a Skid Row record. So at first, Rachel calls me up and goes, "You ever hear of this guy, Nick Raskillen?" And so I'm like, "Yeah, of course." And he's like, "He just told me he wants to produce a Skid Row record." And we were both like, he's just being, friendly and nice. He's a nice guy. Next time they saw each other, he said the same thing again. Rachel calls me. He goes, "Dude," he keeps bringing it up. And he's like, "I think that we should, really look into this." And I'm like, are you kidding me? This guy wants to, if he's serious, it would be amazing. Turns out he was serious, and he got on a Zoom call with all of us. We took care of the logistics of it immediately. That was easy, management and record label and all that stuff. And he laid out his plan and on what he wanted to do. And he says, "No, I want to make a quintessential classic Skid Row record." We're like, "Okay, what do you mean by that?" Like, after all this time of being a Skid Row, you think you know what Skid Row is. And he goes, you guys throughout the years have gotten away a little bit from who you truly are. Maybe you have sort of displaced the reasons why you ever did this in the first place. And so that immediately struck a chord with me, because that statement immediately brought me back. I thought about it, and then immediately I clicked on Snake Sabo as a 16-year-old kid standing in front of his mirror, pretending to be Ace Frehley or Randy Rhoads or Eddie Van Halen. And that, thankfully, that fire that emotes is still there. And I got excited because I'm like, yeah, I get it. And we all got it. So what we did was we went into a room, and it was Rachel, myself, Scotty, and Rob, and Nick in a room, in a circle, going through everything that we had written, and Nick going, "I like that. We could do something with that. I like that. I don't like that." Okay, great. Now, we had never done anything like this before. I don't think that in the years that we have made records that we haven't put our trust in someone to critique our music in such a way. We're very protective and I guess very egotistical. I think protective more than that, though, of what we create. And so, but this guy's, look what he's done, and we sat there and collectively decided that we need, if this is going to work, and maybe this is just because we've been doing this for so long that we're able to see this. If this is going to work, we have to really put our trust in this guy 100%. And what that means is you leave your ego in the parking lot and you walk in the studio and you go, "We're here. Tell us what you want to do." And that's what we did. And it was great because he would challenge us, such as we'd be in a particular song. And he would go, "That part right there, it needs to be changed or manipulated in some way. Think about what you did in the second verse of Big Guns and apply that mentality to this." Like he that's another thing that he had, was he was a fan and he knew our music. Like he knew it. He could reference, like, "Oh, that chorus in Quicksand Jesus, what you're doing on the acoustic underneath, we need something like that." Like that's the degree of his knowledge of our history. And once we started going down that path, it was so exhilarating, man. I can't even describe. Just that the bond that we all had together and the creativity that he brought out in us. He would challenge us in a way that wasn't condescending. It was challenging us in a way that he goes, "I know you got this. I know you got this. Just let it out." And so we would play and we would go, "That's pretty good, but it's not there yet." And then keep playing around, all of us, until we all got there and went, "Yeah, that's it." And Nick would go, "That's it." And that's what we did with every song. And it sounds tedious, but it wasn't. It was exciting because he tapped in to who we are essentially as writers and musicians and players. It was tapped into in a different way. It's tough to describe other than, again, giving yourself freely for someone to deconstruct and rebuild. And that's what we did.
Did it almost feel like back in those early years when you were writing and recording, like, did it almost feel like you kind of had that young energy again to
Oh,
create in
without
that
a
way?
doubt. I mean, without a doubt, how could you not? You know, here's a bunch of guys who are long in the tooth, and we're sitting there like kids, like jumping around and just you could just feel it. There was an energy there that was palpable, and so for us, it was not only this incredible expression of ourselves as individuals, but there was a bond there that was strengthened by this process. And it was just so exciting because you sit there and, he would look at Rob, our drummer, and go, you know what? Do your best Keith Moon there. And it's like, oh,
Like that.
that's really interesting. And then so Rob, who was extremely articulate, would perform something and we'd all sit there and go, what? Like that it was that type of thing. And that went with everybody in the band. But we got to a point in February where we realized that it wasn't working anymore with Z. And we had to face a really, really tough decision. What do? We had no backup plan whatsoever, but we know that this isn't going to work anymore for a myriad of reasons that I don't really need to put out there, other than we were just going down separate paths, and those paths were widening as opposed to converging, and no animosity whatsoever. I think very highly of Z. I think he's a really talented guy. We had a lot of fun together, but it just got to the point where it just wasn't working. And we all felt it, Nick included. And so we got to make a change. It's like, are you kidding me? Like, we're really going to go down this path again. Like, we were very aware of what the public's perception might be or will be, actually. And we sat there and thought about it. Rachel and I, band, were talking about it, and Eric was on our radar for quite a while. He had been on. I had been made aware of his, Swedish Idol performance of 18 in Life back when he did it in 2009. He was a itty bitty boy, and he did it with such conviction and such maturity that it really was. It was something. But that's as far as that went back then. Then through the years, several 5-6 years later, someone would suggest, hey, I know things are going well, but if you're ever looking, there's this guy in Sweden. I go, yeah, I know. And then again, a few years later, we were on one of the cruises, Monsters of Rock maybe, and a friend of mine said, I know things are going great, but have you heard this kid from Sweden? Yeah. But nothing, we were happy with where we were at. And so we came to this moment where we had to go. We have to go our separate ways with Z. And Rachel was familiar with Eric. He had been watching his YouTube videos of all the cover songs that he was doing. And he was, doing Iron Maiden and Van Halen and Queen. And it was just, holy crap. We were watching this stuff. We're going, holy crap. So we go, man, let's reach out to him. And we had no one else that we were thinking of, really, to be honest. And so the initial sort of introduction was, hey, man, we've been watching, Rachel reached out to him. We're like, hey, man, we've been watching your stuff on YouTube. Great job. We've got some shows coming up and we need someone to fill in. Would you be interested? Which was true. And he wrote back, he goes, man, I would love to, but he had just gotten through cancer. He had leukemia, and he just got through a bunch of bone marrow transplants, and he was going to see his doctors on a regular basis. And the doctor said, we don't advise you traveling at this point. And we're like, okay, cool. So we're like, okay, how about this? How about we send him a song and see if he'll sing on it? So we sent them The Gang's All Here. And he sent them back. And I happened to be in an airport lounge at a different airport than Rachel was. So he sent it back, and Rachel and Nick both text me. They're like, have you heard this yet? And I'm like, no, I'm in a very public place. I really can't listen. They go, you gotta listen to it. So I go in the bathroom of the Sky Club, and I go in one of the stalls, and I put it up to my ear, and I just write back, holy shit. Like, this is next level, man. And we're all, everybody, Scotty and Rob as well, we're like, holy shit. But being as cynical as we are, we're like, we need to make sure about this. So we sent them 2 more songs and said, that was cool. Can you sing on these? And they came back and they were great. So then it got to the point of, let's get on a Zoom call and see if he's interested in joining Skid Row. And so we get on a Zoom call, small talk for a couple minutes, and then we go, all right, here's enough of the bullshit. Here's the thing. How do you feel about being the new singer of Skid Row? And he put his head down for what seemed like an eternity. And immediately I was like, and I think Rachel said, they were like, he's going to sit there and say no, he's got obligations, whatever. And he lifts his head up and he goes, I'd love to. And it was said with such emotion that we were like, oh, wow, like this dude's really into it. So we have basically hired our new singer without ever getting in a room and jamming with him, and without ever having a beer with him, without ever, going out to a bar with him or a pub or whatever. And it was wild. I mean, bands just don't work like that. You know what I mean? So, but everything about this process was, it was all new and invigorating. And so they were like, well, why not? And then he ended up finishing 8 of the 10 songs of the record with doing it remotely from Stockholm in his home studio, with Nick guiding him and us listening and making suggestions and having him change them. And it was incredible. So the first time we met him face to face, because his band in 2019 had toured with us, so we had a brief introduction with him, but nothing more than hello, hi. That's it. That was it. So we didn't know what kind of person he was. He could have been the biggest asshole on the planet, and we didn't know. So he flew into JFK on March 22nd of this year to do the Scorpions residency. So we're getting ready to open up for the Scorpions, and we've never played with this guy before. Mind you, the Scorpions residency starts on the 26th. He's flying in on the 22nd. We meet for the first time. I meet him in JFK, and that's where his layover is at. So we've got a couple hours. And the first thing we do is go grab a beer together. And I'm like, okay, this is starting out well. And we quickly realize that we're cut from the same cloth, same type of sarcastic humor, but he's really, really humble. And I'm hoping it's not an act, but I get this feeling that it's really not. Like this guy is being his genuine self. Really humble, really engaging, very, very positive, especially considering what he just went through. And so after about an hour, Rachel's already in Vegas, and I have to call him. I'm like, dude, we've got a problem. He's like, what? I go, I can't believe this, but the guy's a real asshole. And it's really, I go, dude, all he talks about is himself and what he can get out of the band and all this stuff. All of it completely untrue.
And he's like, not this again, right?
He's like, you've got to be kidding. He goes, you got to be kidding me. Because he's already, on edge about this whole process, as we all were. So I'm telling them, I go, no, man, I don't know what we're going to do. I go, I don't know what we're going to do. I got to sit in this room with this guy for another hour. And I go, this is horrible. And then all of a sudden he hears Eric laugh in the background. And he's like, oh, you're such a dick. And I go, no, I go, dude, I go, it's great. I go, we're going to be fine. And so we get to Las Vegas and meet up with the rest of the guys. And it was the same thing. It was like a long lost brother. It was very strange, but in a great way. And we all laughed, went out to dinner together, and it felt like we had known each other for a really long time. That's kind of the mood that was really prevalent at dinner. And we got into rehearsal the next day, which was Wednesday, and he did his homework, man. He knew these songs inside and out. So we were like, man, this isn't an issue of the songs sounding, really good or anything. This is more about the whole show and, figuring out where each other's gonna be, and because it's the same, it's new for us. So we don't want to be, like the Keystone Cops running into each other and all this stuff. And so, but the only way to really figure that out is doing it. And we talked about the segues and things like that, but as far as him performing the songs, it was like he had known these songs forever, which he did. And so we had another rehearsal on Thursday, and it went great, and we're like, man, let's not push it, let's take Friday off. And so we took Friday off and talked about the show for a little while, and Saturday we went and played our first show. And here's the kind of guy that he is. After the first show, which was Saturday, again, having only been together for 4 days, he wrote a text out to each of us. Guys, can we get together tomorrow morning and talk about the show? I want to know what I did wrong and what I could do better, and so on and so forth. And we were like, wow. And it's been so amazingly joyous since he joined the band. The energy that he brings, the positivity, his lust for life is infectious. And it's had an impact on all of us. And it's very evident in the record. And when you see us live, it's very, very evident. And, we just got done doing a 6-week European run, and it was incredible. One of my favorite European tours that we've ever, 5-week run, one of my favorite European tours that we've ever done. And that includes, going out with Motley and going out with Guns N' Roses and headlining ourselves over there. This run was, we played a lot of shows, and it was just an absolute pleasure the whole time.
I would imagine that with like how much positivity and just like how talented Eric is, it's definitely played into the success of this newest album, I would imagine. So, I mean,
yeah, without a doubt.
I mean, you guys haven't released an album in 16 years. The music industry has completely changed since then.
Right.
But not only that, but even a couple some of the albums in the 90s didn't even chart. And here you guys are now, almost 30 years later since you last charted. And here you are at 14. It's amazing to see Skid Row's name in that top 200 now again. And I just think that's amazing. And again, I think a lot of that success probably is how much in tune you all are with one another. Like, you all are in a really great place mentally,
yes,
and creatively. You all are in that really great place right now, and that clearly contributes to success, I would imagine.
Well, it's funny, you make a record. First of all, you want to make sure that you're happy with the record. And that was, once the record was done, we were all like, man, there's something really cool about this. Hopefully people will respond. The record label was incredibly enthusiastic about it. And they're like, this is our priority. This is about making Skid Row relevant again to a wide audience around the world. And it has to be said that they've done such a phenomenal job with this record of making sure that not only that people know that it's out, but that people actually hear it, giving us the opportunity to be heard. Because that's difficult in this day and age. There's a lot of people fighting for space, man. And to have the record come out and it's top 20 in 10 countries or 11 countries. And we just got word that in Japan, the Burn magazine charts, which number one, ahead of like Ozzy and Slipknot and all these other great bands. And you just go, holy crap, like how it's amazing. And I use this word humbling because humility plays a big part in our character. And we just all kind of went like, put our heads down and shake our heads and go, how can this be happening? This is just, it's such an incredible gift. And I'm so thankful to be a part of it with a group of people that I genuinely love. And Eric has just been this gift, man. And, has, for me personally, has taught me, because as you get older in this business, you become jaded, you become cynical. It's almost impossible to avoid. And seeing his excitement and his energy and his positivity has worn off on all of us. We're all in that frame of mind because of that influence. And that just happened organically, naturally. And that's such a wonderful thing, man, to be in that space. And, it's weird. I've been home for roughly 2 weeks now from Europe, and I miss the guys. Rachel and I talk every day. That's the way it's been for 37 years. That's the type of friends we are. But with everybody, we're all in contact with each other, every day or every other day. And that's amazing how after all these years, 37 years with Rachel, 36 years with Scotty, 13 years with Rob, and then, 8 months with Eric, but that the band can be so tight-knit now again. And that's not to take away from anybody that has been with us in the past, that has contributed to this band through the years. It's all a part of it. It's all a part of getting to this point. But again, I'm just so excited and thankful for where we're at right now. And I'm looking forward to, getting back out next year. It was just announced today that we're doing a tour with Buck Cherry that starts in March. I want to say March 9th, maybe around there in the States. And then we'll go South America. And then we'll be back it looks like we'll be back hopefully doing another run with Buck Cherry. We're definitely going back to Europe. So we'll be touring all of next year. And also, one of the great things about the way the band is now is that we've already started writing for the next record. I mean, there's
awesome
4 potential songs for the next record already, and who knows whether they'll make it or not. But it's just, we've never done that before either. So that's kind of where everybody's head is at. We're really staying in the moment, but we're also utilizing this newfound energy, shall I say, to be really creative and productive. We always kind of went by write the record, record the record, tour, get off touring, get done with touring, write the record, record the record, tour. That's been kind of the way that we've worked, but not this time. We're actively writing. Eric is a very creative guy. He's a really good guitar player. So it really helps. We're exchanging ideas back and forth again and writing during sound checks and things like that. So it's been nothing but positive. And
that's awesome.
Again, We're just grateful.
One last question I have before you get into top 5 most influential albums. Are you ever going to go after Slipknot for stealing your font for Skid Row?
No, Corey's
It's a direct ripoff.
Corey's a really good friend of ours, man. So I there's no way. I mean, look, if that was, I'm sure that wasn't done intentionally, but if it was, I think it's a tremendous compliment. But Corey's a friend of ours, and you know, friends can do whatever they want.
I think you need to give him shit for it anyway.
Ooh,
Totally.
not a bad idea. Maybe I will.
All right.
I'll mention that you guys brought it up.
Yeah, please do. We,
Yeah.
Anytime we get our name out there, we'd be more than happy about that.
Right on.
All right. Time for the top 5 most influential albums of Snake. Are you ready?
I kind of am. I've been asked
off the
question.
top of the head. Here we go.
I've been asked this question a lot, and I think it changes every time, with the exception of number 1, which is Kiss Alive. Had the biggest impact on me of any record. Number 2 would probably be the first Iron Maiden album.
Oh, naturally. Yeah.
Number 3 would probably be the first 2 Ozzy records.
Understandably so. Some great riff rating that I definitely hear in your playing there too.
God.
Like his solo stuff, or are you talking about Sabbath?
His solo stuff.
Okay.
I'm talking about Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman. See, this is really hard because I'm doing all rock stuff, but
that's okay.
There was a compilation, Motown compilation, that my brothers used to play all the time, and believe it or not, that had a big influence on me. I want to say it was Motown's 64 greatest hits, and it was released as a box set, 4 albums in it in the 70s.
If you don't learn how to groove, you never make people move, right?
That's the truth.
Motown's where you learn that, right?
Oh my God. I mean, without me even knowing it, you know, because it was long before I started playing guitar. And I never learned any of the songs as a guitar player. But I was just, it was the melodies and the instrumentation. And you're right about the groove, because it was, even as a kid, I didn't know what that was. I just knew that I was moving to it, and it was having such a profound effect on me. And again, this is hard. So maybe that's 4, but in a different way. And 5 would probably be Van Halen, Fair Warning.
Oh,
understandably so. As a guitar player, you got to have a Van Halen record on there somewhere, right?
Yeah, I mean, Fair Warning was the one that stuck out for me. Obviously, the 3 previous records were a tremendous influence, but Fair Warning was kind of darker to me, grittier, and there's some solos on there that are just, the solo on Push Comes to Shove is like the perfect solo for that song. It's like there's no, it's just phenomenally perfect.
Totally.
And it struck me from the first moment I heard it. It was just, wow, he really captured the essence of that particular song. You know, that song sounds like it's being performed in a small smoky room or a small smoky club somewhere in you know, some tertiary town that no one's ever heard of. It just creates such a mood, and that solo just it just extends that mood even higher.
it's amazing.
100%.
That's a great list.
That is a great list. All right, Snake, what would you like to plug? This is where you shamelessly self-promote everything and anything you can.
Well, we have a new record out called The Gang's All Here. I hope everybody gives it an opportunity. And that being said, I hope when they do, or if they do, that they love it as much as we do. And secondly, March 9th, we start touring with Buck Cherry in the United States. It's about like a 3.5 week run to begin, and we're working on more dates afterwards, a little bit later in the year. But we'll be touring all of next year, whether it be the States or Europe, or we're going to Japan and Australia. Unfortunately, we just had to postpone the Australian dates because I got to get neck surgery.
Oh,
I
bummer,
don't
man.
want to promote that. But it's just, I hope people continue to give us, warm wishes and support. And the support that we've had for this record has been overwhelming. And to say that we're tremendously thankful would be a gross understatement. And so we just hope that it continues and that people continue to radiate with or resonate, I'm sorry, with our music, and that it touches them and connects with them in some way.
Totally.
Love it.
Is there anything else you'd like to plug?
Well, I'm getting involved in a steel cage match
Whoa.
with AEW with Chris
Is this before
Jericho.
or after neck surgery?
It's going to be before neck surgery, just to prove how tough I am. And I'm doing it with Chris Jericho, and whoever loses has to lie in a coffin with a 12-foot boa constrictor for 20 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my
And
goodness.
can't go to the hospital afterwards.
You're Snake, so
Is the boa going to be hungry?
Oh, absolutely. And highly poisonous. It's going to be on a pay-per-view. It's going to be on December 19th.
oh, dang, that's coming up.
Well, it's the day before my surgery. So again,
Perfect.
just to
Perfect.
prove, and also it's an anything goes match, so you can bring any weapon that you want to bring in there.
Jeez. Are you going to make it out alive?
So I'm going to bring Mick Foley's barbed wire baseball bat.
Oh, brilliant.
And I've been taught how to throw fire. Gene Simmons taught me how to spit fire. So that's gonna be one of my weapons as well.
If you didn't need back surgery before, you're definitely going to need it after this.
Oh yeah, no, it's gonna be. But I have no doubt that I can take Jericho out with
Totally,
with the barbed wire baseball bat. I might bring a garbage can with me, stuff him in the garbage can. I mean,
Snake is going to give Jericho the snake, right?
He's a tremendous wrestler, a tremendous talent, has got a great band, but he's going to be hospitalized for a while.
Oh, wow.
I love it.
I love a good
hopefully
band
you guys
fight.
get put in the same room.
He'd kill me. He'd absolutely destroy me.
Snake, thank you so much. We're excited for everything you guys got going on. We love the new record, and we're really looking forward to the pay-per-view fight with Jericho. I cannot wait for that. It's gonna be awesome. Thanks for coming on, man.
I'm getting taken straight to the hospital afterwards, not only for my surgery, but I'm sure every other injury that he inflicts upon me.
Love it. Thank you so much, Snake.
All right, guys. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the support.